Hi, and welcome to another training video by SQL Server 2012 tutorial.com. Today our topic is to discuss database relationships within SQL Server 2012, which has been out for a few months. Before we get going, let's go ahead and cover some key terms related to this topic. You may have heard of RDBMS. Well, what does that mean? It stands for Relational Database Management System. Anything that's out there like SQL Server or an Oracle, these are considered RDBMSs. Now, within a database, an entity or a table is really an object that we store information on. Okay, so you may have a customer table that will contain things like customer ID, their name, their location, address information, and whatnot. Within the table, you have two items. You have a field or a column. This will have specific value in a table. So let's say you have an employee table. You could have a field called an employee ID that would basically describe or identify really the employee. You could also have a let's say a patient database in a hospital, and you may be either using a patient ID or you may be using a social security field within that table. Okay. Related to field, you have a row or a record. This is really one instance of an object in a table. So going back to the employee table, one record in there will have all their information: the employee name, maybe their social security number, what department do they work in, things of that nature. Okay. Related to database relationships, two very important points. A primary key or a PK is really a field in a table that can serve as a unique identifier in a table. Okay, so like I said, if you have a customer table, customer ID is typically the primary key. And also you may have an orders table, so in that case would have a field order ID. That could be the primary key. Now, related to this concept is a foreign key or an FK. This is really a field in a child table that stores related info from a parent table. Okay, so for example, you could have a customer and order table type scenario, and we'll actually go more in detail on this. But let's say you have a customer, and when they place an order, the order table really is a child table because you cannot have an order without a customer. Okay, and we will show you this in OnetoOne database, which is a sample database from Microsoft. Okay, next item is ERD, or an entity relationship diagram. This really shows all the database tables that are included within a database. And then finally we have a SQL join, which really allows you to create relationship between tables. We probably today will not have time to cover this, but we'll come back to this maybe at a later time. Okay, so as far as the types of relationships in a database, really there are three main types of relationships. You have a one-to-one relationship, which is 1-1. You can have one-to-many, which by the way is the most common type of relationship in a database, and it's typically displayed, one and the infinity symbol. And then you have a many-to-many, which basically has many symbol on both sides of it. Okay, so as far as one-to-one relationship, really what happens in this one is a row in a table A can have no more than one matching row in table B, and vice versa. Okay, not very common as far as databases are concerned, as typically you would want to put all the particular information on a subject in one table. Okay, so maybe you have an orders table. Really all the information should go within that one table. Now, when you do need to have a one-to-one table, typically what you're going to join the primary key in the first table to the primary key in the second table, which really would be the same field. Okay, now as far as when do you really get to need to use these type of relationships, well, let's say you may have a table with many columns, and you may need to split it into two or more tables for performance reasons. Maybe it is taking too long to pull all the information from the first table and this is why you need to basically split it into two. Also, it's possible that you need to isolate part of a table for security reasons. So you may have an employee table, but you don't want to include like social security and salary information. So what you would do in that case is create a let's say employee underscore external table or extension table, and you could put the the secure information in that table. Okay, so that's a one-to-one relationship. Next, we have a one-to-many relationship. Basically, in this one, a row in table A can have one-to-many. So the key is one-to-many matching rows in table B, but a row in table B can only have one matching row in table A. This is definitely the most common type of relationship in databases. And in this one, in order to implement this, you have to basically use the primary key of the main table, which is the parent table. It's going to match the same data foreign key in the secondary or the child table. So just like I mentioned, you have a customers table, you have an orders table in OnetoOne database, which is a sample database from Microsoft that has been out there for a number of years. We will take a look at that in a minute. But basically, a customer in customer table can place one to many orders that will be stored in the orders table. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at a demo. So we're going to be using a OnetoOne database. We are going to really create a relationship diagram, at least for these two tables, customers and orders, and I can show you how to do that in SQL Server. And then we'll use T-SQL to basically pull some of the common data in our query. So let me go this. We go to Start, All Programs, SQL Server 2012, and then Management Studio. Now when this thing loads up, you can select your server. We are using a local instance on my machine, and we are using Windows authentication, so I will just connect. Okay, and here's our Object Explorer. If I expand the database tab, we do have OnetoOne database in here. Now as for his tables, let's take a look at this first. If I select customers, so I'm selecting customers, right clicking on it and saying select top 1000 rows. Okay, now when it does that, we kind of are short on space, but basically here is the primary key on this table. Okay, and then obviously there's other information, company name, contact, address, whatnot. If you do a design on this table, you can definitely see that we have a primary key, which is indicated by this little key over here. Okay, and also look that see that it does not allow nulls in that field. But what that means is basically you can't leave it empty. So that's our customer table right there. We're going to also look at orders table. So remember, this is the primary key. Now I will go ahead and open up my orders table. Okay, and you'll notice that we have two IDs in here. So this one is obviously the primary key for the orders table. Okay, but this next column is the customer ID, which is actually a foreign key from the orders table back to the customers table. Okay, so this is how you basically are going to tie particular order back to that customer. So for example, if I highlight this one, well, this order was placed by a customer with the ID Hanar, I guess, or Hanar. Okay, so that's essentially what the data looks like. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to create a diagram. You basically right